Changeling animals were usually bigger than wild animals, but the shift did strange things to body mass and size. It was never a zero-sum equation. Though she was on the tall side of average in human form, she was smack in the middle in leopard form. Riley, however, was big, and unlike most of his brethren, he wasn't built graceful. No, he was built for stubborn endurance. Apparently his nickname was the Wall. No one, she thought, would ever mistake him for anything but a changeling. Something crunched under her paw. Backing up, she brushed aside the leaves with gentle care. It was nothing. An old toy. Probably willows from the proximity to the house. They didn't find anything in the third or fourth pass. The fifth had to be the final. They were going into more heavily populated areas. It was on that last pass as they were heading toward each other that Mercy saw it. A glint of silver in the grass beside a curb on a dead-end street. One that backed onto the woods that separated the Baker home from this neat subdivision. Slowing her pace, she came to a standstill by it. With other houses so close, it could have been any of 1,000 things. But she looked closer. A chain. No, an identity bracelet, the silver bar marked with the name Bowen. She couldn't pick it up with her teeth. She tried a claw very, very carefully. It came. Riley bent his dark gray head and took it in his teeth, holding it as they walked around the area where they'd found it. Nothing else jumped out. Nodding at each other, they ran back and shifted in the patch of woods where they'd left their clothes. Mercy took the bracelet the instant she was human and turned it over. Happy birthday, Bo. From Lily. Disappointment sat like lead in her stomach. Could belong to anyone. We might as well do a door-to-door. That street's the closest logical place for a vehicle to have waited. Yeah, the woods would have provided coverage. Gut clenching with a furious mix of worry and anger, she put the bracelet to the side and grabbed her clothing. Wonder if we can get satellite images. Riley pulled on his jeans and she almost moaned. Focus, Mercy. I'll check, he said, zipping up those damn jeans as she slid on her own. But we might get lucky with an insomniac. When he turned, she saw the marks on his back were almost healed. Fast, even for a changeling. Which meant Riley was more powerful than she'd guessed, more than he let on. There was nothing flashy about him, just... What the... His hands were on her waist and his mouth on hers before she could do more than gasp. Lightning. Bright. Sizzling. Perfect. This time she did moan, wrapping her arms around him and luxuriating in his strength, in the sheer speed with which he'd come at her. With both of them only wearing jeans, her breasts were pressed against the exquisite roughness of the hairs on his chest. She rubbed against him, giving in to the leopard's innate sensuality. He tore away his lips, but they remained less than a millimeter apart. This is your fault. Hell no. She sucked on his neck, biting him a little too hard for emphasis. You jumped my bones. Tugging back her head with a hand fisted in her hair, he glared down at her. You were all but licking me the way you were looking. Looking's not the same as touching. Her mouth watered at the idea of licking him. They'd been in too much of a rush last night, even the second and third time, as if they'd both been hungry so long they needed to gorge, but... We don't have time for this. He held her for another couple of seconds, pure male muscle and heated skin. We need to make time. It was an order. The cat hissed. The woman narrowed her eyes. What you need to do is let go of me before I give you some scars that won't heal over as quick. One big hand skated down her back to tease the top edge of her jeans. I bet if I touched you now, I'd find you silky and hot and damp. Her stomach grew taut as his fingers slid in past the denim, a little rough, all determined. Pushing. He was pushing her. But she was no tabby cat. She was a leopard. Biting those sensuous wolf lips just hard enough to sting, she shoved away using a move that snaked her out of his hold.